And you're shackled to the bed unless you're in active labor, then they actually let you stay unshackled until you give birth.
I never went on a date. Never had a checking account. I was never able to be a mother.
So you were classed as a baby killer?
I was that, I am that. I'm a lot more than that as well.
My second visit to Indiana Women's Prison began in its segregation unit. The prisoners here are among the most dangerous, and some have been punished for breaking the rules. They are locked down for 23 hours a day and have no contact with the rest of the institution.
Miss Boyd? Yeah. Some people here would like to meet you. Yes, I'm close the door behind you. Step right here. You can step in front of your door for me. Okay.
Thank you very much for coming out of your cell to talk to us.
No problem.
How long have you been in this segregation unit?
In about a week, it'll be 4 months. So.
What's that like?
It's hard, especially being pregnant.
You're pregnant?
Yeah.
Well, when did you find out you were pregnant? Where?
When I got arrested, they gave me a pregnancy test at the county jail while I was there, and I found out there. And I was already like a month in my pregnancy, because I'm 5 months right now.
It's one thing to be pregnant in any general prison population. It must be particularly agonizing to be pregnant and to be in a segregated cell.
Yeah, like I said, you feel alone, you feel like, I mean, it's so depressing to where like every day at 6 o'clock when we get mail, you sit there on your bed and you look under your door to see if you get mail, and when you don't, like I sit there and I cry because I feel like everybody just forgot about me. And being pregnant is even worse because my hormones are driving me crazy. 1 minute I'm mad, 1 minute I'm even madder, 1 minute I'm really upset. It's just an emotional roller coaster in this little room by myself.
When was your last communication with the father of your child?
Before we came here.
Is this your first baby?
No, I have a daughter. She's 5. She's with my mother right now.
What does your 5-year-old make of your situation? Because she is probably of the age where she's just about beginning to comprehend that her mother is not around.
Oh yeah, I talked to her. She knows that I've been in trouble, and she tells me like it is. I'll call her at home and she'll tell me, why can't you just stop getting in trouble and be home with me? And you know, she tells me she's like the mom and I'm the child. That's what it seems like right now.
Boyd escaped from a prison work program which was based in the local community. Her punishment is 6 months in this unit. Pregnant women who do follow the rules and who have committed less serious crimes are put in a separate wing. Once they're about to give birth, they are taken to a local hospital. Their babies will then spend the first months of their lives back here.
Brooke, how long have you been in prison?
I've been here since September.
And when was your...
He was born December 6th.
What's his name?
Zayden.
Zayden. How well did they look after you in this facility when you were in the advanced stages of your pregnancy?
They looked after us really well. Once I had to go and be induced, so they took me out like Wednesday evening, and I went to the hospital, got induced, and I had him later on that night. And we get to stay there 24 to 48 hours, depending on whether you bottle feed or breastfeed.
How does that work in hospital? Do you have somebody looking over you? You have a guard there while you give birth?
Yes, the officer usually sits in the room 24/7, and you're shackled to the bed unless you're in active labor. Then they actually let you stay unshackled until you give birth. After you give birth, you have to get shackled back to the bed.
You're shackled to a bed.
Just your ankle.
Just your ankle, but you were shackled to
but
a
you're
bed.
shackled, yes.
It's not the most propitious
No.
circumstances in which to have something which is so intensely
Yes.
personal.
It was very embarrassing, very embarrassing.
May I see the cell where you spend most of your time?
Yes.
Thank you. See, yes. How different would this be in its physical surroundings if you were at home?
At home, he would have his own room. I wouldn't have my bed in here. He would have a dresser, a changing table.
What would you tell your son when he is old enough about where he was born and the circumstances in which he was born?
I really haven't thought about that question yet. I would just tell him that Mommy made a big mistake and it was for the better. Why I came here, it made Mommy learn a lot, and I hope he can learn from my mistakes and see how embarrassing it was to be here, and hopefully he won't ever come to a place like this.
You'll tell him he was born in prison.
Yes.
It's visiting time, and Kim is preparing to take baby Gabriella outside the unit. At times like these, offenders are sharply reminded of where they are.
132, 173, permission 1 to 9 and 1 to 13.
So you have to be accompanied on these visits out, Kim, do you?
When we have the babies, yes.
Yes. Why is that?
Just for their safety.
I mean, there's sexual offenders here that have done crimes like that, so that's one of the reasons why we escort them.
It's difficult to believe that people will want to do anything to a child being taken out to a visiting area.
I know. That it might happen. Yeah.
And you have to make sure he doesn't.
Yes, sir.
This, after all, Kim, is a women's prison. So it's rather difficult to imagine that a woman would do something against a child.
Oh, yeah. For me, it's hard for me to fathom that a mother or any woman would be able to do that to a child, but it happens, and there's actually women in this prison that have hurt their children. Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
132, 173, permission 1 to 9 and 1 to 13 from the dining hall.
Evening recreation at Rockford. Prisoners have an hour's free time before lights out. The tedium of the unimaginable sameness of long days poses difficulties for even the toughest offenders. And for some, there's the constant pain of living with the memory of what you did. Dawn Hopkins was convicted of the battery and manslaughter of her 3-month-old son. After almost 15 years, she's about to be released.
Hello.
Do you mind if we interrupt your game for a brief while?
No, that's okay.
How much time do you get to play table tennis every day?
We spend about an hour a day doing that Monday through Friday. It gives us something to do and gets us off the housing unit. It's a little bit of exercise, but it's not real intense.
How long have you been at this facility?
I've been incarcerated at this facility for 1 year, but I've been incarcerated for 14 and a half years.
14 and a half years?
Yes, but it's almost over. I have 2 years left. In like 29 months, I go home.
In your darkest moments here, have you reflected on the circumstances which actually brought you to prison?
Yes. 3 months into my incarceration, I tried to take my own life because I couldn't deal with the guilt of what I had done to bring myself here. I was very lucky that an officer found me and saved my life. I hung myself 3 months into my stay.
You tried to hang yourself?
Yes, I did. I was facing the rest of my life incarcerated. I was 25 years old. I had taken another person's life, and I couldn't live with that. And I did try to take my own life when I was first incarcerated.
So the trigger for your attempting to take your own life was the fact that you were looking ahead at this vast expanse of time that you had to do in jail?
And the guilt of taking somebody's life, the pain that I had caused my family, and I just felt like I was never going to be able to do anything positive with my life ever again.
It must be strange to think of going home after all this time.
Actually, it's terrifying. The world has changed in so many ways, and when I'm done, I'll have done 16 years. And the amount of ways that the world has changed in that time, it's scary, and I don't have a lot of family support, so it'll be like standing on my own 2 feet for the first time in my life.
What was your early life like?
I was a full-time college student. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and I ran a bar that my stepdad owned. When I go home, I also have a degree in philosophy that I've earned since I've been incarcerated. When I go home, I'm hoping to eventually own my own bakery, coffee shop. I want to get my pastry chef license and do that kind of stuff when I go home.
You seem to have worked it out pretty well. You seem determined not to be somebody who comes back, and you have a plan for your life in the future.
Absolutely. I think that's what you have to do. You have to set goals, and you have to turn your dream into a goal. Set the steps and accomplish them one at a time to be able to reach your goal. Otherwise, you're just treading water.
For most prisoners here, treading water is the sum total of their lives. And I'm about to meet a woman who spent more time in prison than any other in the state of Indiana. At Indiana Women's Prison, 69 inmates are here for life. They will, of course, be denied any chance of a return to their families. For the majority, that's the agony that constantly haunts them. One of the prisoners here came to this place years ago as a teenager. This is called the Programs Building. My escort is Officer Frank Bryan.
Hello.
Morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
M2, M1.
This is our community outreach. These ladies up here are working on a quilt, I believe.
Disregard the visiting room meeting.
Okay.
Meet you
What's
at 9 o'clock.
These are some examples of some of the things they're making.
I've been here since I was 16 years old. I've done 38 years, so.
You've been
no,
here since
I don't
six-
get out. Yeah, I don't get out much.
Yeah, you've been here since you were 16.
Yes. Yeah, but.
That's a pretty early age to come to prison.
Yeah. I'm the youngest. I was the youngest offender ever here, and now I'm the longest one to have ever spent as much time here. Yeah.
That's your tag, yes?
Yes, I've got the shortest DOC number.
Which year did you come to this prison?
Which year?
In which year?
75. 1975.
1975.
Yes. I've never driven a car. I never went on a date. Never had a checking account. I was never able to be a mother. But a lot of these people in here that are younger, I'm mom.
Do you have many family connections? Do people come to visit you?
My sister does with her kids and her grandkids. So I still have a connection out there. Yeah.
How do they regard you? What do they think of you and of your situation?
Oh, they want me to come home. They want me to,
That hurts.
yeah. My two nieces, they went and broke their piggy bank and took their money to their mom, my sister, and said, "Is this enough to get Aunt Cindy out?"
Gosh.
Yeah. And that's what makes me emotional.
It's very difficult for me to talk to somebody who's been in this situation for 38 years, when I look back on my life and think all the things I have done in that time,
Yeah.
and to some extent yours has...
It's in a box.
You came into prison at
Yeah.
age 16. What for?
Murder. I committed murder.
What were the circumstances in which you killed someone?
I was abused. I was extremely abused from basically a home that I was living at. And I tried to leave, and I set a fire trying to get out, and it got out of hand, and they died in the fire.
So you started the fire?
Trying to escape.
Right. And how many people?
6.
6 people were in the house?
Yes.
And they died?
Yes.
Did you not know there were people there?
I knew the people were there. What I was thinking was, if I set a fire, then everybody can get out and I can run. That was my intentions. The fire got out of hand.
How quickly were you apprehended?
A couple of months later. I was in the hospital because I had burns. Yeah.
So you burnt yourself too?
Trying to save them. That's how I got burnt. I kept trying to go back into the house to get them.
Didn't work?
No. No.
This is probably a brutal way of putting it, and I acknowledge that, but the fact is, for you, this is it.
Right.
You will end your life here. You will end your days here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am looking forward to growing old in here because...
You're looking forward to that?
Yes, because, you know, I'm going to know that my life is not going to be much longer. And there's something always positive on the other side, and I believe that.
It's very good to meet you.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
All of you.
I'm on my way again to the Rockville Correctional Facility. For the last time. Of the litany of crimes you hear about in this prison, perhaps the most shocking is that of a mother who kills her child.
Hi.
I'd come to see an inmate I'd met before. Dawn Hopkins is now looking forward to her release. She had been forced to give up her first 2 children because she'd abused them. But in 2001, she was convicted of killing her 3rd child, 3-month-old Noah.
How often do you reflect on the chain of circumstances which actually got you here?
Sometimes it just sneaks up on you like that, and you don't even realize it, and you're happy, and then you realize that you're sad, you know, and it's something that, maybe it's a song that played, or something that somebody said, or last weekend was Mother's Day, and somebody wished me a happy Mother's Day, and it was not good. It just brings all of that back.
Your son was only 3 months old. The realization that you took the life of someone to whom you gave birth must be probably the most horrendous thing of all.
Absolutely. You know, I can still remember when I found out I was pregnant. You know, I was 6 weeks pregnant, and they did this ultrasound, and there was this little life, and, you know, they told me he was like 1.5 inches long. And at that moment, you could see his heartbeat, and I promised at that moment to keep him safe forever. And I didn't. And that makes me feel like a monster. And it makes me feel like I don't even deserve to be alive some days.
As an educated person, you must go through a lot of self-analysis. You must look back and try to analyze your actions.
I honestly don't even have an answer for you. I don't know. I struggled with postpartum depression after the birth of my son. I was seeing a psychologist regularly. I was actually in his office the day that I took the life of my son. It was a normal everyday day. I had been to the craft store to buy a Christmas stocking for him. It was right before Halloween, and I sat, you know, working on the little felt pieces for this stocking for him for his first Christmas, and you know, it was just him and I that day, and I don't know. He was fussy because he was had a cold, and I don't know. I lost my temper, and I should have been better than that.
Was that a moment of blind rage?
In a moment, life changed, you know. I was sitting on the couch, feeding him, giving him a bottle, and talking to my mom on the phone, watching The Simpsons. And 15 minutes later, I was on the phone to the paramedics, getting instructions on doing CPR because he wasn't breathing.
Wow. Gosh, that's a terrible moment.
Life happens in a moment, you know, and you take life for granted. You never realize what moment it's going to be that your life is going to change forever.
What did you do when you discovered your son wasn't breathing?
I called the paramedic. I called 911, talked to the paramedics, began performing CPR until a police officer came in and took over CPR. Then the paramedics got there. We all went in an ambulance to the hospital. They called in saying that they had a child coming in with unresponsive. So they had a chaplain there waiting to talk to me when I got there. And they were able to get his heart beating again, but due to the brain damage, he was not breathing on his own. So
he suffered brain damage?
Yes. He died from shaken baby syndrome.
How quickly did they blame you for your son's death?
But they didn't blame me. I was honest with them. I told them exactly what happened as much as I could remember, because at that point, all I wanted to do was save his life if possible, and it didn't matter what happened to me.
Going through that long process of being in police custody, that must have been pretty traumatic, knowing what had happened.
There were death threats made against me, and
why people thought you were a child killer. A mother who kills her child is probably held up as one of the most horrific
most contemptuous in our society. I mean, the most contemptuous would be a sex offender, you know, somebody that's a pedophile. Other than that, you're baby killers.
So you were classed as a baby killer?
I was that, I am that. I'm a lot more than that as well, but that's who I am.